Hola chicos, bienvenidos otra vez a mi canal. Yo soy Andrea Villada, tu profe de español, y hoy vamos a considerar los objetos indirectos, los pronombres. En nuestra clase pasada estudiamos cómo identificar los objetos indirectos. Recuerden que tenemos que hacer dos preguntas. ¿Para quién o a quién? Y que generalmente usamos a con objetos indirectos. Por ejemplo, ella lee un libro a sus hijos. Yo compro regalos a mi mamá. But this a comes with a little twist. Before we go to that twist, we need to know what the pronouns are for indirect objects. The indirect object pronouns are me, te, le, nos, les. In the sentence, yo leo un libro a mis hijos. If I wanted to say I read a book to them, I would say yo les leo un libro, and that's it, right? Les is the indirect object pronoun for hijos. Remember, I'm using les because hijos is indirect. Direct object is libro. Yo les leo un libro. In the sentence, yo compro un regalo a mi mamá. What if I wanted to say I buy a gift for her? Yo le compro un regalo. So le is the indirect object for my mom, the third person. Now it's time to see what these pronouns mean or stand for. Me means to me or for me. Te, for you, to you. Le, for her, to her. For him, to him. For you, formal. To you, formal. Nos, for us, to us. Les, for you guys, to you guys. For them and to them. So can you see le and les have many people in the meaning? Okay, exactly. Le has three different people, him, her, and you formal. Les has you guys and them. Them for girls and them for boys. In Spanish, we do something very interesting when we use le and les. Let's take a look at the sentences. Yo leo un libro a mis hijos. Even though this sentence is grammatically okay and fine, this is not how we usually speak. We tend to use the pronouns, the indirect object pronoun, every time we have an indirect object. So, even though we're saying a mis hijos already, I should be adding the indirect object pronoun that corresponds to the children, which in this case is les, is the third person plural. So I say, yo les leo un libro a mis hijos. So I tend to include the pronoun along with the indirect object. Why do we do that? I honestly don't know. It doesn't make sense. I agree with you. Every time my students tell me, Andrea, but it doesn't make sense. A pronoun is supposed to be for replacing nouns, not to use it with the noun. I agree. But this is the way we speak. You can avoid doing that. You can avoid using the pronoun along with the indirect object and your sentence is correct. But it's going to sound weird. It's going to sound like something's missing. Okay, like I need something else, and that else is the pronoun. In the sentence, Yo compro un regalo a mi mamá is the same thing. A mi mamá is third person singular, so the pronoun is le, and this is how I would say it in a regular conversation. Yo le compro un regalo a mi mamá. Let's see other examples. Ellos le dan un abrazo a su tío. Tú le pides un favor a tu esposo. Nosotros no les decimos mentiras a los niños. Can you see how this works? If you're using the preposition para when para is allowed, for instance, in the verb comprar, you can use para instead of a. You don't need to be using the pronouns. You can say, yo compro un regalo para mi mamá, and you don't need to say, yo le compro un regalo para mi mamá. It sounds weird, actually. So it's only when you use the preposition a with the indirect objects where you need the pronouns as well. Let's try to practice the translation for these sentences. He gives his mother flowers. In English, you guys tend to use the indirect object first and then the direct object. We do it the other way around. We use direct and indirect afterwards. Él le da flores a su madre. Barney writes Fred a letter. Barney le escribe una carta a Fred. I buy candy for the children. Yo les compro caramelos a los niños. We send a report to the boss. Nosotros le enviamos un informe al jefe. So that's the first thing you need to remember. Always use the pronouns, the indirect object pronouns, if you have an indirect object in the sentence. After you know the context, you might not need to repeat the indirect object. Por ejemplo, yo tengo una niña. Yo le leo un libro cada noche. In this sentence, I don't need to say a mi niña otra vez, again, because I already mentioned her, so I don't need to repeat this. When you're using me, te, and nos, you don't need to add at the end of the sentence a mí, a ti, a nosotros. It's not necessary because me, te, and nos are very specific. So you don't need to add any more information to make them clear. Start using your pronouns even if you do it wrong. Just use them, okay? Don't avoid them. Don't be like Neo in the Matrix. And when you see that they're coming, you do like, oh, no, I'm not gonna say that sentence. No, say the sentence. Start using them. The more you try, the better you will get. So guys, if you want a little practice, you can go to the links in the description box. You can read this information. You can buy me a coffee if you would like to support my channel. And in our next class, we're going to be practicing how to work with direct and indirect object pronouns for people, only people right now. Let's take it step by step. See you in our next class. Nos vemos. Un abrazo. Chao.